A couple of weeks ago, we started talking about the overwhelm of doing video, but it's incredibly important to understand that there are two kinds of overwhelm. One you need desperately, the other will kill you. Knowing the difference can make a huge difference in your life and business. So fasten your seatbelt. We've got to go up to 30,000 feet for this concept. See you there in 10 seconds. Overwhelm. We hate the idea of it like the coyote hates the roadrunner. Hi, I'm Steve Washer, author of The Video Brain and creator of Audience Builder's Blueprint. Has it ever happened to you? You joyously start learning a new skill, say a language or a marketing technique, and a week later you've stopped dead, wondering what you were thinking. What happened? Well, you were probably overwhelmed. But in trying to cope with your feelings, it's very possible you confused one kind of overwhelm with another. Now here's an example. Of the people who decide to learn to fly, about 80% drop out because of overwhelm. And when I started to learn, the first few instructors took me up, showed me steep turns, stalls, landings, probably would have done a flip if they hadn't seen me turning a bright shade of green. And this went on for 10 years, at the rate of about an hour a year, just circling the dreary town of overwhelm. Then one day, I went up with a new instructor. After an hour in the air, he assessed the problem differently and in a very sneaky way helped me overcome overwhelm. 5 months later, I was looking at a brand new pilot's license, but there was another benefit. The ink was barely dry on the license when I decided to learn video, something I knew nothing about. But I went on to become an expert relatively quickly by using this same lesson. And I know if it worked for me, it can also work for you. So here's what KB, my instructor, did. He figured out that while I was absolutely useless in the air, I was pretty good at doing the bookwork, things like navigation. I could do wind angle corrections, time and distance formulas, basically all the stuff you could do on the ground. It was fun. I had confidence about it, kind of the opposite of feeling overwhelmed. So when we got back into the cockpit, he showed me how one thing I was doing in the air related to the homework I had been doing so confidently on the ground. And within a few hours, I was no longer getting nauseous and, well, actually having fun. Now, this story also illustrates the kind of overwhelm you need if you want to get anywhere in life. Anytime you learn a new skill, you engage your whole self on so many levels. The experience becomes temporarily overwhelming until it becomes commonplace. It has to be that way. We learn by doing. I mean, you can't learn to ride a bike by doing time and distance calculations. You have to get up on the bike and fall down and, over and over again. That can be an overwhelming experience. The problem is that we tend to identify with the overwhelm, and that's the killer. Instead, you have to anchor your confidence and let that guide you through the experience. And when we do this, we can finally embrace the external overwhelming experience that expands the boundaries of our comfort zone. That's the cool kind of overwhelm. But then there's the life-extinguishing overwhelm. It's the internal paralysis that shrinks our sense of self. Not so cool. So how do we embrace the one and reject the other? Well, let's use doing video as an example. Now, this may or may not apply to you. You'll have to decide for yourself where you're going to anchor your confidence. But for the sake of illustration, let's say that your confidence comes from your expertise as a writer. Maybe you write good stuff quickly. Maybe people tell you they love your articles and they can't wait to read your next one. Bottom line, you feel pretty confident with that kind of output. So how do you apply that expertise to making a video? Well, here's what I would recommend. When you're making your first 10 videos, that you would focus on the message and relate that to every aspect of the video making process. You relate your message to the lens. Hey, I want people to see this message. You relate it to the microphone. Hey, I want my mic placed where people can hear me and the sound is clear and present. You relate it to the editing. Hey, I want to make sure this message isn't overshadowed by cheap effects. You relate it to your own persona on camera. Hey, I don't want to get in the way of my own message, and I want people to know how much I believe in this and how helpful it will be for them to see it, hear it, and experience it. And maybe that leads you to use a teleprompter, because your message can be said word for word that way, and that makes you more comfortable. You're allowing your own confidence here to lead you through this whole new set of tasks. But your message, your writing, is also helping you to make choices that will define your persona, how you use your camera, and all the other technical stuff. 90% of the population never even attempts this because they've confused one kind of overwhelm with another. You don't have to live with overwhelm for 10 years like I did. Put yourself in the top 10% of doers in this world. Anchor your confidence in the thing you do best. Leverage it to learn valuable stuff. And soon you'll be sharing your gifts on a bigger stage. If you'd like to find out how your superpower can work best with video marketing, check out our blog for strategic guidance on all kinds of cool stuff from YouTube ranking to persona mastery. For overwhelming victory, I'm Steve Washer with BrainyVideo.com.